And welcome to the Historic Commission meeting Tuesday, November 18th. It is 5 p.m. Call the meeting to order. Roll call, please, Brian.
Griffa?
Here.
Kramers? Here. Klingeman? Absent. Conrad?
Here.
Goff?
Here.
Hanson?
Here.
Terrell?
Here.
6 present. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Item number 3 on our agenda is comments from the public. Did we have any written comments submitted today?
Not in writing, but I am aware that one of our attendees this evening would like to speak.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you could introduce yourself, please. Thank you.
My name's Michael Roach. Originally was born here in Janesville back in 1948, but I lived in New York City for about 35 years, Los Angeles and Arizona for another 5, and I worked in high technology companies. In New York, I worked for a company. We sold the most computers in the world, most microcomputers. I was the marketing director for that, so I've seen a lot of change in technology over the years. About 12 years ago, my wife got Alzheimer's and I couldn't afford to take care of her in New York, and I moved back to Wisconsin because I felt I could find a place to take care of her. She died here 2 years later and I was marooned. So one of the things I did was I started a study of wheat culture in Illinois, Wisconsin, and Minnesota almost as a hobby to keep me busy. And that's turned over the last 10 years into a 5,000-page manuscript, which a lot of it deals with local history here. And particularly from the 1850s to the 1880s, I refer to it as the Rock River Patent Zone. More patents came out of Janesville, Beloit, and Rockford than anywhere else in the world. So there's a legacy here of technological innovation, and that was specifically in agricultural machinery, but those machines transformed wheat culture from scarcity to abundance. So that's a legacy that I think future generations and younger people today are completely unaware of. But it's something you can learn as much from old technology problems as new ones. So part of my interest evolved to trying to set up a museum here as a permanent basis for an educational site to, one is preserve some of that culture, but more importantly, to use that culture as a way to understand technology and to help younger people gain an advantage in their careers on the world scale here, because they're in competition with very motivated people from China, India, everywhere in the world, and they need every advantage they can get. So part of my mission would be to use that historical legacy to generate modern lessons for learning and improving job skills, and say to work with Black Hawk College on computer-aided design, things like that. So anyway, last September, I was looking for a small space to start a little print shop and do part of this project. And it turned out there weren't really good spots that were small, but there were some bigger ones. So the picture you're looking at there, and the one that you're probably all familiar with, the engineer building at 122 South River Street, is about 40,000 square feet. About 25,000 of that would be appropriate for a gallery space, which would really make an excellent museum. So I've been working since September to come up with a plan, talk to the owner. The owner is willing to sell and even contribute some of the purchase price back into the development. So now I'm in the process of here working with the city, with commissions like yourself, to try and move the project forward. And right now, a major part of it is I'm soliciting about 15 development companies around the Midwest to find a partner to do the purchase and renovation, which is about a $7 million project. And then a second part of it is to raise around $7 million for operating expenses, half of which probably would go into an escrow account to pay lease costs so that the development company would have assurance to move ahead on the project. So this summary hopefully gives you some details. I'm open for any questions.
Is the property owned by the Loshings?
Yes,
That's what I thought. Okay.
and Mark has been very cooperative. He really likes the idea. And it's, I think with the high ceilings in there, it would really make a great display space. Also, about 7,500 square feet of the first floor on the river-facing bay, that would be converted to a Class A restaurant. And since I lived in New York for so long, I know a lot of people out there, and I recruited a very well-known restaurant manager to move to Janesville to set that up and basically set up a Class A restaurant. So that's one of the other possibilities with this. And part of the reason for the restaurant at that scale too is, you know, most small museums, once people have seen the collection once, they don't come back. So part of the challenge of running a museum is how do you get people coming back often enough to keep it going and keep them contributing and keep the culture moving there. So part of that restaurant culture for kind of morning and afternoons is, you know, kind of moderate lunch fare, something where people can come in and read a newspaper or do whatever they want to do, and then at 4 o'clock to convert to restaurant culture. So, and I've in touch with quite a few collectors in the area who are kind of my age or our age, and they've got great collections that they really value that they would like to see go somewhere where it's more accessible to the public, and to do that before they die. So that's a major effort of mine to contact those collectors and assess whether those are appropriate for the museum. So, and there's a lot of material out there. I have a sizable collection of my own that I would contribute, mostly in printed documents of farm advertising brochures and a lot of photographs. Any questions?
I think it's a pretty unique, aggressive idea. And
Yeah.
a nice reuse of the building.
And I think it would really add to the downtown. I think it's got a great location. It's right across from the farmer's market. I think if we lit it appropriately, it would be a substantial addition to the skyline of the city at night. An important part of the project too, and this is part of my background in technology, is the interior would have ultra energy efficient insulation and air handling systems and all that. One is so that we can lower our operating costs. And what we're also looking to do is to put a solar array on the rooftop and the possibility of solar carports out front. But the carport side of it is partly determined by the historical standing of the building. Right now, the building was determined ineligible for historic tax credits. And the reasoning was that the Harris company was not historically significant, which is completely false. It was a major factor in the development of Janesville, in the development of the Janesville Machine Company, and eventually GM and Samson Tractor and the whole works. So I'm in the process of reapplying for that historic registry. So any help you can give me on that end. Matter of fact, one of the things that I'm really looking for is the building was built in 1912. And I'm really need to know who built it, who occupied it for the first decades, and what the use was of the building, so that can go into the application. So if if you have any leads, my contact information is there, and I'm really interested to find that information.
I was
take it
curious.
it's-
Oh, go ahead.
It's not part of the downtown historic district currently?
No, it is not.
How close is it?
The district that it's nearest is actually the Old Fourth Ward. It's in very close proximity to the Old Fourth Ward, but this property and the block that it sits on, as well as the block to the south and a portion of the block to the south of that, were excluded from the boundary of the district, and I'm not familiar with exactly why that would have been the case, but it was.
And those 3 blocks were historically the property of Harris and then the Janesville Machine Company. That was where all their manufacturing was done.
And,
But, go ahead.
sorry, do we know when these areas were excluded, when those lines were drawn?
No, that's what I'm trying to find out. I have a map from 1878 that shows them clearly within the Fourth Ward district. But electorally, those borders were probably changed over the years. And so that when the historic application came around, they were probably using a more modern boundary line rather than the historic one, because all 3 of those blocks are clearly within the 1878 map. And if you see pictures of engravings of the historic views of Harris, it encompasses all 3 blocks. But the question is, I think they had a major fire at one point, so I need to know what the circumstances were of rebuilding this building here. So, and as a kid, I recall, and my memory might not be that good, but that there were rail lines that went right into the building. That if you look at the front of it, the arches are tall enough to accommodate rail cars and even diesel engines being moved into the building. And there's vents, 3 sheds on the roof which have mechanical vents for naturally venting those fumes out.
Have you spoken with the Reamers?
No.
They own the hardware store
Oh,
now, and they, through in-laws, they were Harris's.
yep.
Mrs. Reamer, a generation back, was a Harris.
Right.
So there's got some stuff on display in the store, but they may be able to provide more information.
Right. Actually, I did talk to him a couple years ago just about the book side of it, not this. So I'm really late in getting to them just as a professional courtesy so that they know what's going on in the neighborhood. So I will make sure that on Thursday I get down there and keep them up to speed.
I had 2 things. First,
Sure.
I was wondering, I was just curious, actually, when I've been driving by, wondering what was going to happen with this building. So, thank you for giving us at least an idea here. And also, I just think that it's such a great idea with the Children's Museum also opening up downtown, that we have now potentially two places that are going to be used by school districts and, and other constituents here in Janesville and in Rock County. So, Brian, what do you believe are our next steps?
Well, Mr. Roach and I spoke by phone last week and arranged a meeting tomorrow. He'll be coming in to meet with myself and staff from other offices to talk a little bit more about his project. I don't know that there's anything necessarily for the commission to do at this point. I'll be sharing with him information that I have available to me on the Old Fourth Ward Historic District, specifically the nomination materials for that district, which would contain an explanation for the boundaries of the district and ideally would provide some further clue as to why this building was excluded from the district when it was created. And I don't know offhand, when that would have occurred. Likely the 1980s, I suspect, is when the Old Fourth Ward was added to the National Register of Historic Places. But we just met here this evening and got to talking before the meeting, and so we'll be providing some assistance to Mr. Roach.
I think one of the reasons that it probably got excluded is all the properties in the Fourth Ward are all residential, except for, I think, the church and the convent at St. Patrick's and stuff like that, but there's no industrial property included in the district. And at the time they did this, the properties may not have been in very good repair and considered ready for demolition. And I think even in the Arise program, it considered just demolishing those blocks and putting in housing. So, and matter of fact, kind of an advantage of using it as it is rather than the housing is there's no need to disturb the ground. Utilities are there, everything's adequate, so you don't have to go in and start digging, because I'm sure there's still some toxic materials in the grounds under there. So if there's really any deep digging done, it's going to be an expensive undertaking.
And so you had mentioned the possibility of some solar parking spaces or parking stalls. On the current property's configuration, how many parking stalls are there?
I think about 20, maybe a little few more, 24.
Okay.
And this would just be, my estimate would be 18 of them across the front, and some of the parking that's facing the building would be eliminated to make a bigger main entrance, because there's no handicap access to the building right now.
Right.
So part of it would be installing a cement ramp and a big enough entryway for people to get in there, and maybe even with some kind of a little awning. One other architectural feature that I really would consider is the building is about 150 foot square, but the northeast corner is kind of shaved off. It's about a 45 by 60 triangle. And in that space, I would like to put an addition that would be kind of a glass tower to the height of the building to really bring more light and maybe add a different architectural element to it. And an architect that I talked to about this on the historic side said, as long as you don't try to make that addition look like the existing building, then it's okay, because they want to keep the integrity of whatever is there now. So that would be something that kind of for seasonal, put a big Christmas tree in there, do all sorts of lighting, whatever, but something else to add attraction to the exterior of the building, because the building itself is utilitarian. You go by, it's just a big brick box. So anything that we could do to do that, I think would help the appearance.
Very good.
Sure.
Are not so much about the historic aspects of this, but I'm interested in the Technology Innovation Center part of this. And one question simply, I'm fairly new to Janesville, although part of my family lived a long time, generations in Wisconsin. I came here a couple of years ago from the East Coast. I'm interested in the intellectual property aspects of this and how you can use this to interest college and law school students in the patent world especially.
Yeah.
But the copyright and the trade secret world, everything. This, I think, would be a really interesting thing, and I wonder if have you talked to the people that run the Threshery?
I'm in touch with them. As a matter of fact, one of the things that we would do is co-promote each other.
That'd be
And
great.
he knows kind of all those collectors out there on the tractors and stuff. But again, this is not a facility just to collect whatever's locally historical. I'm very selective in what would be put in there, say from a tractor perspective. Some tractors were technological changes, right? Or binding machines, especially in this area, which were designed. I don't know, has anyone ever heard of Charles Withington? Janesville resident. He designed what was called a wire binder, which automatically cut and bound wheat. McCormick bought the patent, had a big patent battle, and that ruled the wheat market for about 5 years until the twine binder came in, which was invented by a guy from John Appleby from Whitewater. And that was developed in Beloit at the Parker and Stone facility. So this there's and most of that technology involved patent litigation. So I've written about 12 chapters that cover that whole spectrum. And the McCormick Company especially was expertise at manipulating patents and acquiring them. And they were slow to come out with new technology themselves, but if they saw something that was good, they bought up all the other patents and then had legal challenges. So this is what I said in the beginning. The historical experience contains immense amount of knowledge that is applicable today, particularly in the patent side. And that's why I refer to it as the Rock River Patent Zone. It really was an inventive period. But the other side of the coin was most of those inventors went on to participate in family entrepreneurial businesses. And I think not only has the inventive side of our culture here kind of diminished, but the entrepreneurial side also. So that together, that's what made all of this a success. And eventually, most of those family firms got absorbed by McCormick or Deering, and they became International Harvester or whatever. But I think that's part of our purpose. And I think in the layout that I have, there's about 3,500 square feet for a public meeting room for specifically doing these kind of presentations to get people up to speed on that history and what lessons can be learned from it.
Have you talked with, I don't know anything at this point about the University of Wisconsin Law School. They have a law school, don't they?
Yep.
How is their IP department, and have they got a strong patent program? And
No.
have you talked to them? They don't.
I don't think so. Just a personal footnote, an old girlfriend of mine went to Madison, but she ended up going to New York, and she ended up in the patent world because she was multilingual and technical and stuff. So for 15 years, I talked about patents every night at dinner. So, but that's part of an education that doesn't exist here. No, you know, if you talk to most students and stuff, and you said, well, what do you know about patents? Nothing.
Yeah, that's what interests me
Right.
here, is you could grow that piece of this,
Yeah.
which is really important.
And another part of it too is in computer-aided design. Some of these old machines, if you want to think of them, they're very complex machines, but they don't use modern electronic programming. Their programming language was mechanical. It was gears, pulleys, whatever, but they were also writing in a programming language. So that's something, if analytically, if you look at it, is a lot to learn of how you get a machine of pieces to do something that it took humans thousands of years to learn how to do.
Thank you.
Very good. Any other comments?
I could blab on forever.
Just a question, because I saw some references to applying for federal programs and tax credits and things with the updates and renovations to focus on energy efficiency. Have you considered, as the project sort of moves forward, considering LEED certification?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that would be important.
Absolutely.
And again, from Janesville's perspective, I think it's important to set an example. I don't mean to besmirch Janesville, its real estate market, but I worked in real estate in New York and California with doing solar development, right? I designed solar systems for commercial real estate owners. So I talked to one of the real estate people here who's giving me a tour. And I said, well, what's the kind of office market? He said, oh, the best is the Parker Building. And I said, well, what's the energy redundancy and on the building and the energy efficiency? And he didn't know. There was no energy backup. But if you're trying to recruit technology companies, you have to build structures that have energy redundancy. And that's something that also came out of COVID. A lot of companies realized that they had to have multiple channels in supply, but they also had to have multiple channels in power. So this facility could operate as an educational facility in its own right, as a microgrid of how to make a facility consume the least amount of energy, but at the same time, if the grid goes down for any reason, it automatically kicks in with the batteries, and it could survive for a couple of days. So the city would have a temporary emergency facility available that could be powered at any time. So that's the kind of, when I was in New York, I worked on design with a lot of municipalities and federal government officials on designing these kind of facilities.
Yeah, I think focusing on energy efficiency and those kinds of things can really help with almost any historic preservation project, because obviously part of historic preservation is sustainably preserving things in ways that are efficient and can be used. Because of course, if we open every old building up the way it was 100 years ago, it wouldn't last very long. It'd be very expensive to run those buildings. And part of bringing history back to life is bringing it back in a way that can be enjoyed by the people who are coming, the customers, as well as the owners, the people who need to turn revenue and make something out of the buildings that they're working with, and truly have that be a sustainable something. So I appreciate the contribution and attention to that particular aspect.
I think it's very important also as a nonprofit to be able to control operating costs, because a major expense there is heating and air conditioning 25,000 square feet with a 20-some foot ceilings. So that's not a minor cost, and the more we can do to control that, the better the livelihood and sustainability of the nonprofit for the long term. So it's all sorts of benefits.
Very good. Well, thank you for
I've
bringing
got
this
one
to
other
our attention.
document. If you send me an email, or maybe Brian, you have some of it, you could distribute to the group, but I'll leave one master copy you can pass around. Actually, two. This is a table of contents of the book production. So the table of contents alone is 30 pages. So, and this is how I started the project this fall, by proposing to do traveling exhibits. And most of the materials that are in here are all digital that I own, and we can blow these up to poster size. So again, it's called Enlarging History, but you could pass this and maybe give it to Brian at the end, and I'll pick it up tomorrow, or you could keep it even too.
Thank you.
It's got fun pictures.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, moving on to item number 4, approval of the minutes of the November 4th, 2025 regular meeting. Is there a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
I'll motion to accept.
The second?
I think.
Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor accepting the minutes for the November 4th meeting, 2025, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, so moved. Thank you. Moving on now to new business. Pre-commissioner recruitment cycle presentation and discussion with the advisory committee on appointments.
Good evening, Historic Commission. My name is Kathy Erdman. Today I have with me Adam Dennis and Mr. Badri back there. I'm not even going to try your last name, Badri. I'm sorry. We are from the ACA, the Advisory Committee on Appointments. We are here this evening to chat with you guys a little bit. You should have some notes in your packet, some questions that we'll be asking, as well as a fact sheet that we'll be reviewing tonight. So just a little bit about ACA. Our role is to make recommendations to the city manager and the city council for the various boards, commissions, and committees that citizens occupy throughout the city of Janesville. We are working diligently as a part of that assignment to improve the process of committee application, to make committee positions more accessible to more citizens and to connect you guys, committees, with skill sets that help you serve the Janesville community better. And that takes a little bit of chatting with you. So obviously with your permission, and thank you for having us tonight, we'd like to just run through a list of questions and get some feedback from you.
Go ahead, yes.
Okay. First thing you should have in front of you is a fact sheet. That is the fact sheet that we are currently using when we advertise your committee on the city's website. Is it accurate? And do you feel like it adequately reflects what your committee does?
So, one point on accuracy that I noticed during my initial review is time commitment section. It says first and third Thursday. That would be Tuesday.
Okay. Anyone else?
I thought it was pretty comprehensive. I didn't see anything I didn't see anything that was missing, let's put it that way.
Okay. Do you feel like the estimated time commitments, for example, are accurate to what you guys are currently investing in the committee?
The only thing that's, you're only talking about the meetings?
Meetings and/or preparation for the meetings. So if you would, in total, spend 1 to 10 hours a week on this committee, we're looking to give citizens an idea of what they can expect.
Well, we would also be visiting.
That was the thing, that was the one thing that it was sort of, I felt like it was included when we do it on a rotating basis. So when a certificate of appropriateness comes into the office, then they assign 2 commissioners to go and visit the site and speak with the homeowners, typically they're homeowners, and discuss the project. And so that time varies depending upon the size of the project. And so that's the only other aspect that really wasn't like addressed in here, besides the meetings.
So would it be fair to add occasional time commitments for site visits?
Yes.
Okay. Would that make it more comprehensive?
Yes.
Okay.
And especially because I think that even if you're not assigned to, I think in general, we all
Drive by.
go out.
Yeah.
And like to
check
go.
it out. And then additionally, I think that we're moving in a direction where actually visiting new owners that move into also, which would be another aspect. But it would still be the same type of a visit commitment that way.
So when we're implementing a process where if there is a new homeowner that moves into the overlay district, that somebody from the commission or more than one commissioner will go and visit the new owners of the property to let them know what we're here for and explain what kinds of programs are available to them since they potentially may own a historic home. So the tax credits, et cetera,
Sure.
And we're still developing that, but that would be another layer of community involvement. We're also looking at doing more community outreach as well. Right now, the only program that we're consistently doing is the Tallman Arts Festival every year, where we table. And we are looking at ways to increase our visibility here in Janesville.
So it's a limited number of special events.
Yeah.
that-
Okay, so it would be more accurate if we said occasional need for site visits and limited special events. Okay?
Yes.
And I think really we ought to be accurate to somebody who's totally new to this, that we ought to say there is usually some minimal preparation time for meetings, because we do actually read if there's a certificate or someone like you coming or zoning plans or something like that. I mean, you do actually get ready for the meetings before you get here so that you know what's going on, what we're going to discuss. We just came off of reading a series of, a kind of a guidebook about learning the regulations for the state and for local meetings and that sort of thing. So I think for somebody who is trying to decide by looking at your fact sheet, is this something I would want to do? Then maybe you would want to just have something saying there is some minimal preparation time for meetings. It's limited. It's like an hour at most times, or less. But I think
It would
it's-
depend on the individual, you know, and
And the amount.
and the amount of material that we're covering, so.
Yeah, and what you already know. I mean, a lot of you
Yeah.
guys knew a lot already that I do not, so I spend maybe more time looking at that stuff in advance. But somebody who doesn't know any of
Who's
this
brand new.
needs to know about that.
So if you were, I guess I'm asking you to kind of do this collectively, and that may not be fair, because like you said, people spend different times with different things. What's a time estimate that makes sense for you guys? You meet once a month, twice a month?
Well,
So
sometimes just-
in that 2-week period, what type of time frame would a citizen who doesn't know anything about this or is coming into it brand new, what type of time frame could they expect to commit?
30 minutes a week, maybe, on average?
Yeah.
At maximum.
With
2
the
hours
exception
in
of
the
obvious
interim.
site visits or
Right, right,
extra
right.
stuff,
I
right?
was thinking
Yeah.
closer to, you know, between 2 and 3 hours.
Okay.
Between
I'd
each
rather
Depending
err,
upon whether you're reading the materials that, you know, if somebody's going to be coming in, you know, we are going to want them to have to go through certain things as well. But just in the actual prepping, you know, reading through COAs when we get them, and any other, you know, I mean, we've had different things with the ordinances being updated, so we were looking at the ordinance and we were making our suggested changes. So there was a lot more this year that we've done than in the last 2 years as far as outside work goes. I say comfortably, maybe, you know, 3 hours, 3 to 5 hours, just to be on the safe side.
Yeah, I don't, if we're talking about an average throughout the year per week, I mean, we do have higher times that it goes through, but I think that there's many times where, you know, if we don't have anything on the docket, that we're not. I don't want to make it sound overly cumbersome.
if I may, Commissioners, what we're trying to do here is just give John Q. or Joan Q. Public a general gist. We understand that there's going to be weeks that are going to be more time intensive based on whatever you have on your docket. But if we do want to be accurate to the best of our ability and what people can expect to expend in terms of time, because it does matter on who applies.
I'd be comfortable with 2 to 3 hours a week.
Okay.
Is anybody?
Or every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks, really, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
pretty much from meeting to
3 hours
meeting.
every week seems
That's
like
why I said a
more
month
than we
was 3 to
really
5.
do.
Oh, a month?
Yeah, and you guys are
That's
in,
what I said,
Okay,
yeah.
so-
you guys are in the best position to tell us that because you're doing the work.
I haven't gotten paid yet.
So 2 to 3 hours in a 2-week period.
Okay.
Yep.
Under desirable characteristics, if you're ready to move to another,
Absolutely, whenever you're ready.
okay. Experience with construction methods. I think the term experience might be off-putting. I don't know anything about construction methods. I don't have any idea how to do that.
Sure.
So I can't serve on this committee. And the next line is familiarity with historic architectural styles. Most people couldn't tell you a Queen Anne from a ranch.
Okay.
But it just says desirable. It doesn't say you need to have those. It's not a
I know, but
requirement.
it just, those are strong words.
Sure.
The statements are fine. And I don't, under familiarity with historic, an appreciation for different architectural styles.
Yeah, or interesting.
Yeah, it's just,
Yeah.
a-
Appreciation, interest
Yeah.
versus
Yeah.
expertise.
you know, we're not gonna walk them around the district and ask them what's that.
Yeah, you don't need to be able to build a house. You just have to
Yeah.
appreciate the history of one.
Yeah, I think,
Okay, so when we go through that and we're looking maybe for more appreciation and interest over
yes.
designated expertise.
I think the Historic Commission tries, and it has succeeded, of having expertise in building on the commission at most times, having somebody who is familiar with it. I don't know about what they have now, but that's me.
Is that kind of consensus of the board?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Okay. We're just taking notes as we're working through this, so. Okay. Any other proposed requested changes? Anything else from your fact sheet that perhaps we don't have quite right? that we need to update, or?
Pretty comprehensive and just well put together.
This is a Brian question. Because we really haven't had one, we did with Columbus Circle, but I have other things because of other organizations that I'm involved with that are actually working with the state, not necessarily us, in historic markers. And so I don't know where that falls because we've not actually had one.
You're wondering
That has
whether
been
the-
brought to us,
Whether
that-
the Historic Commission would have to weigh in on
Yes.
a
Well, I don't even
request to
know
install?
what, the way that this is like we make that decision.
Oh, so I think what you're probably referring to is the portion of the fact sheet that lists the powers, duties, responsibilities of the Historic Commission under the heading Authority.
Yeah, it's the
These-
fourth bullet.
These provisions come directly from the zoning ordinance.
That's what I thought,
So at the
yes.
time the Historic
Yeah.
Commission was established and created, codified in the zoning ordinance, these were the duties, powers, responsibilities that were envisioned. I think that the reference to an appropriate system of markers of designated historic districts was most likely intended to be specifically a local program as opposed to the official, Wisconsin,
Oh, okay.
state of
Okay.
Wisconsin markers. Not that you wouldn't necessarily have some involvement when somebody's looking to install something.
Right.
I don't
Okay.
know that that's necessarily a requirement, though.
Okay.
So would that be more referencing the updated street signs rather than, say, a historic marker per se?
Yeah, that's a great example. Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Before we move on to number 2, does anyone have anything else on your fact sheet? Okay. Number 2, future projects under consideration. Does your committee have any special projects or goals in mind for the next year that maybe we can connect you with some skill sets for? And you had kind of mentioned a little bit talking about having an increased visibility and increased community involvement presence.
Yeah,
Maybe-
we're actually in the process of creating sort of a working outline of certain things that we want to be involved in with Mackenzie's help in creating a calendar, knowing when, and we're actually just really in the process of doing that right now.
Okay.
So there's nothing in particular that is sticking out unless somebody else has anything. Like I said, that's something that we're working on.
Sure.
The visiting new places and the overlay is really the only thing that's fully fleshed
Yeah.
out at
Okay.
this point.
So that kind of, just to follow through then, there's really no special skills that you're looking for at this particular moment for any committee projects that you have coming up in the next year?
Correct.
Correct,
That's
yeah.
a
Okay.
good assessment.
Okay. Regarding your committee and kind of the process where you guys sit in the hierarchy, has your committee received information necessary to understand how your committee fits within the city as a whole?
I feel like Brian covered that to some extent with me as part of the onboarding process. I can't speak for anyone else.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say
It comes out, it comes out pretty understandable when between Brian's orientation processes for new members as well as just the process of being on the commission. You learn the commission's place pretty naturally, and it's job of recommending this and reviewing that, providing advice on some things and then some binding input on others. So yeah, it's a lot of great information, probably about 75% of all of the contextual information that you need to understand what the commission's role is comes pretty much at the beginning, and then over the course of just being on the commission over a couple of months, I think you get the rest pretty easily.
Okay. Do you have any thoughts or suggestions about the application process that we currently have in place, maybe the one that you went through, and how we can improve it for others that are coming after you?
The only part of the process that I question is that after a term is up and you are eligible, I mean, you have not completed 2 terms, the fact that you have to go through the application process a second time. When as a former educator, it's like, if I have proved myself in the work that I have done here, I've gotten an A, why do I need to take a final exam? So having somebody to go through that, I find kind of demoralizing. And
So is a reapplication process necessary for those
I think that
that have not met their term limits?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that, allowing the person to have a say, yes, I would like to continue on without having to go through the whole application process when they've proved their worth, potentially. Hopefully they have. Otherwise, maybe there is a conversation that Brian or somebody else has with them. But that's the only thing about the process that I question. That, to me, I think I know for a fact that it turns people away. Good people.
It
having
turns
to re-up.
Okay, so it
Yes.
turns people away before they run into a second term?
Well, they
transition
finished
over.
their first term, they want to do a second term,
Okay,
and having to go through all that again, no.
okay. We will pass that along to the powers that be. Anyone else? Anything, and this may have been a while back for some of you. I would assume that some of you are in year 2 or even longer into your terms. So, no? Okay, nothing else.
No, I think we're
Most of
all,
us are-
you're finishing your,
This is my final year, yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Your final year and you're terming out?
Yes.
So you've re-upped once?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, okay. Attracting new candidates. Do you guys have any thoughts or suggestions on ways that we might appeal to the citizenry of Janesville to find candidates that are interested in serving on your committee?
I wish I had an answer. I only found out because it was word of mouth. That I had a former commissioner, Jackie Wood, who was like, Dale, you need to apply.
You could have told her no.
No, you don't tell Jackie no. But I don't.
Jackie's now getting an email of this meeting.
She might be watching.
She probably is. But honestly, I don't know how other than that, because I've only ever heard it just by word of mouth.
And I think also that as we do more in community reach out, that's going to make the committee, more in front of
More visible.
people. So
And-
that's going to be very much
Yes,
helpful.
and we also can be a part of that advertising.
If you were talking to a new candidate, or maybe trying to attract a candidate, would you consider this experience one that's worth recommending? Why? Give us a couple words snippet. Why has this been valuable for you? What can we use to portray your experience to other people?
Well, yeah, I grew up in Janesville, moved away for 45 years, came back, moved to the historic district. I have always had, it was for me that, just that working knowledge of Janesville and wanting to be a part of the process. I had no idea what I was going to be getting myself into, and I am so grateful that I had this experience, being on this commission, because it just helped broaden my own knowledge about the home that I live in, that I purchased, but also how much of an impact that really getting people to understand that I don't really own this property. I'm a caretaker of it for future generations, and trying to get that message out to people that this is important. I probably diverged somewhere.
I think one of the things that could sell it or help to promote it is it gives you a nice history of the city you live in. And for a lot of people, it would be a good first step in community service. It's a very low time commitment to get involved in a commission, because a number of others are quite a bit more time consuming. And this will get you a working knowledge, and it's enjoyable to give back.
And I would add that it's a great avenue that isn't that much of a time commitment. That is a way to turn an interest in history into something actionable. And I think our initial point during this meeting, our initial conversation about the property on River Street's a good example. Because I grew up in Janesville, lived here my whole life. I've seen this building downtown my whole life and always wondered, that's kind of a neat building. That's kind of an interesting building. I wonder what its history was. I wonder, what it might be someday. And now, here today, I learned what it was, and I learned I might have a role in helping in our own civically engaged kind of way, help determine what its future is. And that's very rewarding.
Yeah, and I would add, I come from kind of the opposite end of the spectrum here because I never lived in Wisconsin. I only lived on the coast, and I came to Janesville because I always wanted to have a Victorian home, and because the historic district and area here is fairly extensive compared to some other places that are in the area, and because this era of buildings and architectural heritage, we've raised it all over the United States. So it's really a very special thing. And one of the things that attracts me about being on this commission is the chance maybe for us as we figure out our calendar and we figure out what are the goals that we have and how do they change through the years, to bring a sense of pride and the specialness that I think exists here in Janesville because of this historic preservation district. And I'm hoping that, other parts of the city that aren't protected in the way that the courthouse and the overlay district are will want to do that as well. Because it's really actually a very special heritage for the United States, I think.
Okay, so if I was going to bullet point kind of what I just got from you guys, you can tell me if I'm on. I have enjoyable to give back, turn interest in history into something actionable. I'm a caretaker for future generations, and a sense of pride and preservation. Would that be?
I think sure. And as Jim said, as a gateway to further service to your city is a nice
Yeah,
selling
that's
point.
A good first step
Gateway.
in community service.
Yep.
Okay. Over the course of your experience doing business as the commission, are there any local community groups that you have regular contact with?
The Rock County Historic Society.
Okay.
People often confuse us with them.
Brian, just a quick question for you. Do you happen to know if you reach out specifically to them around application time?
We have had in the past a degree of communication with the society. For a period of time, the executive director up there also served on the Historic Commission, and so there was a degree of overlap then. Since he departed, I know that, Dale principally, I think, amongst our commission, has had some communication with the folks at the society. I guess I don't know if any of that was specific to the application process, though.
It was more about how to collaborate on outreach.
Sure. So the reason I'm asking that question, so we're reaching out to all, or as many of the city committees as we possibly can to have this exact same conversation. One of the ones last week that we met with had a list of organizations that they presented to us to say, hey, look, these are places you could market us and reach out to groups that are specifically either benefiting from services or that are going to be interested potentially in participating because it's a way to influence the process. So I was just kind of thinking along the same lines for you guys. if you're in contact with any specific groups over the course of your business in a year, those might be places that we can specifically reach out to advertise and say, hey, if you're looking for another way to get involved, come sit on this committee.
Along with the calendar, that's another area that we're really focusing on.
Okay.
Because we do want to talk to realtors. We really would like to be able to have, if there's a group that meets regularly, that, that we can collaborate with them to just share, information that they should know when they're selling properties, especially in the overlay district. These are the things that people need to know before they actually sign the dotted line, that, about the tax credits and all, because unfortunately, my experience has been, I end up talking to people after the fact. They've done the work, and then I was like, well, you can't get credit for it now. It all has to be upfront. I mean, so that they're aware of the process. And so those kinds of groups we're still defining.
So would groups of realtors be a group that you'd like to see your committee potentially marketed to? We're looking for ways to put
Yes.
your community front and center in front of interested parties.
Yeah.
Couldn't hurt.
I know, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Be the first step to having those conversations that we want
Yes.
to have with them.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful.
Okay. Is there anyone else you can think about or think of while you're,
Business owners in the downtown historic district. Essentially almost anybody in any of the historic districts are essentially our constituency. So, and any information we can get to any of them is obviously a big goal of ours. But in terms of marketing us, in terms of, here's an entity within Janesville that, you can be a part of or you can engage with, definitely business owners in the historic district in downtown.
And we that, those of us that, use Facebook, or B, and live in the overlay district, we have our own group on Facebook. And so we have published. We've put out all calls through our Facebook group.
Not be doing this through Facebook. It's ridiculous.
all right, so I have Rock County Historical Society, potentially realtors, groups, and then homeowners and business owners in historic overlay districts as specific folks that we might want to figure ways to reach out to. Is there anything else that you have for us?
Chirp in, if the museum got going, I would definitely sponsor a monthly meeting of historic people, homeowners, brokers, do something as a social event to promote something like this, and to encourage that kind of development.
And that kind of made me wonder if there's a local group of people who are administrating the work being done on the Children's Museum, that whole project. If there are local entities working on that, that might be good folks to engage with, because they're clearly doing some very, very important historic preservation work over there with that bank building.
One more outreach place is the Wisconsin Historical Society. Because they're tuned into the whole state.
Okay, so the additions of Wisconsin Historical Society and Children's Museum representation potentially. Thank you so much. You've been very gracious with your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll
Thanks for coming.
We'll
Thank you,
forward
yeah.
a summary along to your committee liaison, and that way you guys can take a peek at it, and we'll get working on your application. Thank you.
I was so thrilled to hear that you guys wanted to come, I shouldn't say you guys, that this group wanted to come and ask these questions. It was needed, and because I have felt that as being a part of the commission, we were always left out of this conversation. And it was like
We would very much like you to be involved in
And so it was like
this conversation.
somebody else was making the decision, and it was like, but wait a minute, we're the ones that are doing the work. And we don't have to be making the decision, but to be a part of the discussion is really important.
Please reach out if anything occurs to you later. Nick Faust is our committee liaison, and we have meetings on the regular at this point. So, and because we're coming into an application process, this is going to be on the table for us on the agendas for the next foreseeable future. So please, if something comes up, something occurs to you later, just shoot an email, drop a line, and we'll work it into whatever discussions that we are having at the ACA. So we are here to help you and serve the community and making sure that citizens have a voice on all these different boards and commissions. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much. Thank you. All right, moving on to item number 6, old business, the continued discussion on public outreach and the calendar of the annual Historic Commission activities. Brian, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, so Kenzie Wilcox from our office is attending an all-day training session in Madison today, and so was unable to be here this evening, but she did put together a brief memo, and then there's a couple things attached to the agenda materials that she had drafted up, one of which, and we do have a couple slides depicting this, but one of which is the calendar, the mouse will work for me here, calendar of Historic Commission activities related to public outreach, and the other is a draft script of information that the Historic Commission can use when you're speaking with new property owners in the Historic Overlay District. So it's up to the commission, whether you want to provide any degree of feedback on these things now, here today. We do, of course, record these meetings, so Mackenzie would have an opportunity to view the meeting, and I'm sure she will later in the week, to make any updates. And we can also have this on your next agenda as well as a continuing discussion if you'd like. And I would anticipate that Mackenzie will be here on your next meeting date to provide maybe an overview of any updates that she's made since today, and continue that discussion. Apologies, I don't know why the mouse
What is the
isn't
will
working.
of the group?
I'm happy to wait till Mackenzie's back and
Yeah, there were a couple of items that were on here that I needed to, research or get more information about to be able to ask more intelligent questions, especially when it came to the calendar of events. I love the calendar, by the way, the way it's laid out. And also sort of like the script that we talked about, I thought was pretty clear as well. But I think I'm in agreement that if, I'm going to speak from the I perspective, I need more time to review, especially the calendar in particular.
Yeah, I would like to continue to discuss it, and if you can pass along that I'm also impressed with the way the calendar is looking and being filled out, and it's got more flesh to it each time we see it, and that's pretty impressive.
I would also agree that I enjoy the calendar structure, how easy it is to read, and how succinct it is. But yeah, just a little bit more time to review and have our next meeting, hopefully with Mackenzie present, so we can get whatever little tweaks might need to be made, considered.
So at least the question for me that was obvious was the first one that would have been on this meeting, the nominations of statewide historic preservation awards. I don't even know what the criteria is. And so it was like, I would like to, to see what that actually entails. What are we looking for? So.
I mean, it looks like that conversation goes over a couple of meetings.
Yes,
so
it does.
we could start with those questions and kind of use this schedule as it is right now to hopefully by January 20th, by the last meeting where this is the main consideration, we'll have a much better idea of what we're going to be doing.
I think that this is a kind of a living document where next year it'll be better than the year after. But
Right.
one thing that I do notice on here that I think would be helpful, and this is not on Mackenzie but more on us, to put our deadlines on you know, we know when everything has to be submitted for these different types of grants and things, but we need to put some deadlines on ourselves that we're going to have, you know, we're going to have our property list at this date so that we can narrow it down instead of all of a sudden, because that's what's happened in the past. We kind of talk about it, then it's like we're 2 weeks away from when we have to have it done, and it's this big rush to get those in.
Yeah.
I
And,
think that's a good idea.
and-
Yeah, to
and
put
the
in
o-
deadlines.
yes, and along with that, you know, I would like to see it in here that, you know, press releases. You know, how is this information being disseminated? The things that we're doing, how are we, you know, how exactly is that getting out to our constituents, so to speak? Okay?
And I actually do not know what CLG, what that acronym stands for. What does that stand for?
So certified local government, that is
Sorry,
a,
Brian.
nope, no problem at all. So the Wisconsin Historical Society oversees the certified local government program. Janesville was one of the very first municipalities in Wisconsin to enroll in and continuously participate in the certified local government program. We have a certificate in our conference room that recognizes that Janesville has been a CLG since, I believe it was sometime in 1985. And so there's certain requirements that are tied to that. You have to have a local ordinance related to historic preservation, and it has to be an enforceable ordinance. It can't be advisory. You know, the Historic Commission can't exist in the capacity of simply providing advice to property owners. You have to have, as was mentioned earlier, some decision-making authority, as you do. There are annual reporting requirements. We have to file an annual report with the Wisconsin Historical Society, and the format for that has changed quite a bit over time. It's a lot, there's a lot less detail to it now than there used to be when I started working as staff liaison to the commission, but regardless, so we have to perform that annual reporting. We have to provide meeting agendas and minutes to the Wisconsin Historical Society. So you may have noticed that every time you receive an email from our office with an agenda, a link to the agenda materials, there's a gentleman named Jason Tisch copied. He's a Wisconsin Historical Society employee and their CLG coordinator. So that provides him with a direct opportunity to keep up to date on the commission and its activities. And I think there's a handful of other requirements as well that we have to keep up with. But the primary benefit to being a CLG is that enables you to participate in the grant. There's a CLG grant funding program, and it's that program that the Historic Commission and the city used in partnership with the school district a few years back to hire a preservation consultant to have the 3 elementary schools listed in the National Register of Historic Places. So it's because of our CLG status that we were able to secure those funds. So that's what the CLG is.
Thank you. I will go back and look at my onboarding documents and all of the regulations, and I will see, yes, this is how this fits in here. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Any other comments for Mackenzie? Okay. Hearing none. Item number 7, Historic Commission announcements. Please remember that announcements are limited to member activities, memorials, and non-political community events. Discussion of matters related to governmental business is prohibited. Anybody have any announcements?
I do. I have a question as much as an announcement. Brian, how can we logistically and legally invite the commission to tour the Lovejoy property?
Once there's a desired date and time for that to occur, communicate that to me as far in advance as you're able, and then I will, and other staff in our office, will work with the clerk treasurer's office and anyone else as necessary to have the requisite public notices posted for that to occur.
Is there a minimum
At least 24 hours in advance.
Oh, okay.
But that presumes that everyone who would participate in the notice preparation and posting is present and available. So that's why I say as far in advance as you can.
I didn't know if there, because this is
24
a
hours
little
is the
bit
bare
different, that
minimum.
it would require 30 days' notice.
Oh, nothing like that.
Okay.
No, no.
One thought that I had is possibly doing it on the next meeting we cancel. Because you always seem to get that done about 6, 7 days in advance, letting us know there's nothing on the agenda that requires us to meet. Because then most of us are used to being here.
Yep.
The
Yeah.
first and third Tuesday. Just a thought. Everybody.
Smart, yeah.
Everybody said they wanted to
Yes.
do it.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to
Yeah.
get it done.
Yep.
Don't do it at the next meeting, I won't be here.
Nancy, I'm real good at doing things that Nancy tells me.
Yeah, I know, but not me.
Very good at that.
Okay.
So Jim, are you, I guess the next time that we do end up canceling a meeting, would you like us to reach out to you to confirm whether or not such a tour can occur? I don't know what the scheduling looks like on your end.
He was very agreeable to coming down, and I believe since then has bought a property here that he's working on rehabbing. So as soon as your decision is made that you're going to cancel the meeting, if you could reach out, I will reach out to him. And if he's able to come, don't do it for the next meeting, though.
I did have one other announcement, probably beginning at your next meeting. We do want to give Mackenzie an opportunity to serve and get some experience as the principal staff liaison to the commission. So I would expect that beginning with December 2nd and extending out for a few meetings, she'll probably be the one sitting up here at the dais with you. I still fully intend to be here, sitting out there somewhere. So I'll be here, in the event that there's any questions or anything that requires my input. But want to give her that opportunity to serve as staff to the commission, and we're sure that she'll do a great job. And ultimately, I can share with you that the goal is for her to take over that position and serve as the principal staff liaison to the commission. And again, I'm not going anywhere. I'll be here available to you and to her as things come up and questions arise, but wanted to let you know that that'll be our plan moving forward.
I'm excited about that. So.
But we'll miss you. Right?
Oh, yes, we'll miss Brian. He's
Get
going to be
too
sitting out
excited.
there. Any other announcements? All right. Our next regularly scheduled meeting will be Tuesday, December 2nd, here at City Hall. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Seconded.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
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 Opposed? We are adjourned, 6:13. Thank you.